Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Lucy Whitmore wasn't home by midnight again, Charity, or Adam Reynolds. Henry's suspicions simmered under the glow of his spreadsheets. She'd humiliated him at dinner, her laughter too loud at Adam's jokes, her hand lingering on his arm. Their daughter Stella joined the mockery. Dad's probably upstairs with his spreadsheets, but Henry wasn't just a quiet provider. He'd prepared for this betrayal, a sealed trust, frozen accounts, and an ironclad prenup. "You taught me the value of stepping out of my comfort zone," he'd say, when she realized her life was collapsing. Lucy's choices had consequences, and Henry was done being the fool. Chapter 1. Henry Whitmore stood at the edge of his mahogany desk, a single lamp illuminating spreadsheets of projected earnings. It was late, near midnight, but the hush in his home office belied the turbulence in his mind. Outside the curtained window stretched the manicured lawns of the Whitmore estate, a property he had bought outright 12 years ago when his tech security company, Whitmore Shield, went public. The place was quiet now, too quiet, he thought. He glanced at his phone, half expecting a message from Lucy, his wife of 22 years. She was often out late these days, charity functions, exclusive galas, meeting potential sponsors, or so she claimed. Once, Henry would have accompanied her. But the invitations dwindled as Lucy made it clear she preferred going with more exciting companions like Brooklyn, her flamboyant cousin, or certain acquaintances Henry barely knew. Lately, Lucy's tone had grown sharper, her patience with him thinner. She accused him of being dull, two methodical accusations that stung. He closed the spreadsheet with a sigh. The numbers were excellent. Whitmore Shield's earnings soared thanks to new contracts with major airlines for advanced scanning tech. Henry was the mastermind behind every negotiation, every partnership. He was meticulous, an attribute Lucy had once admired. She used to tell him he was the rock that grounded her impulsive nature. Now, apparently, that same steadfastness was reason to mock him. At the corner of his desk sat an old photo, Lucy as a radiant young bride in her 20s, and Henry standing tall beside her, filled with hope. Next to them was their daughter, Stella, now 19, a freshman at an expensive private university. She was the apple of Henry's eye before Lucy's growing influence taught Stella to treat her father's caution and kindness as an inconvenience. He still remembered the day he'd set up a substantial trust for Stella's education, anticipating her bright future. But ever since Lucy began whispering that he was old-fashioned or overly controlling, Stella had drifted from him, echoing her mother's criticisms. The day's tension knotted in Henry's chest. Lucy was still out. He checked his watch, 11:59 p.m. She was at some wine auction, or so she said. But Henry suspected she was with Adam Reynolds, the rumored investor Lucy and her cousin Brooklyn had mentioned at dinner last week, an investor who, Lucy teased, found her witty and enchanting. The raw implication that Adam might see something in Lucy that Henry no longer appreciated smoldered beneath Henry's calm facade. He closed his eyes, recalling how he used to indulge Lucy's every whim. If Lucy wanted a lavish trip, Henry quietly paid for it. If Stella demanded a new car, he'd secure the best model with top-notch safety features. If Lucy wanted the living room remodeled for the third time in 5 years, he'd sign the checks. The monthly bills soared, but Henry's success in business shielded them from financial worry for a time. Yet Henry was no fool. Over the last year, he'd noticed Lucy's subtle manipulations, forging alliances with certain friends who enjoyed her sense of fun, while dismissing Henry as too unadventurous. She'd sneak in jabs about how a real man would understand her desire for spontaneity, or how a more exciting father would let Stella charge unlimited sums on her credit cards. When Lucy saw Henry's tension, she'd roll her eyes, calling him an old soul that can't keep up. The final straw had come 2 weeks ago, during a dinner party Lucy threw at short notice. Brooklyn arrived with an entourage of socialites, including the charming Adam in tow. Henry watched from the sidelines as Lucy practically glowed around him, her hand lingering on Adam's arm, her laughter too loud at his every joke. By the end of the night, Lucy was telling everyone Henry was in bed by 10 p.m. Like an old grandpa. The humiliation was real, her words stinging as the partygoers laughed. Stella joined in the mocking. "Dad's probably upstairs with his spreadsheets," she quipped. Henry realized in that moment how thoroughly he was losing them, or perhaps had already lost them. They saw him as a milk-a-toast provider, a background figure. They didn't realize or didn't care about the quiet power he wielded. The majority shares in Whitmore Shield, the hidden legal structures, the prenup Lucy had once signed, the unwavering loyalty of attorneys who recognized Henry's brilliance. He'd always been the rock, but a rock could crush if necessary. He opened a private folder on his laptop. Inside were documents labeled contingency. He'd spent months preparing them, ever since Lucy's behavior escalated from mild disrespect to blatant disregard. He wanted to protect himself from the possibility that Lucy might one day leave him for a more exciting man like Adam. The documents included adjustments to Stella's trust, power of attorney changes, official disclaimers, removing Lucy from certain business holdings, and bulletproof prenuptial clauses Lucy had once breezed through without reading in their early marriage. Yes, it was cunning, even ruthless. But Henry had learned from the best he'd learned from Lucy how to be subtle. He'd spent countless nights quietly shifting assets, forging professional relationships outside Lucy's knowledge. He was done being ridiculed. If Lucy truly wanted to dance with another man, Henry wouldn't stop her. But he'd ensure she'd lose the comfort she took for granted. He scrolled through messages. Lucy had texted an hour ago. "Won't be home soon. Don't wait up." He typed back a simple noted and set the phone down. His heart pounded with the knowledge that soon, very soon, he'd put into motion the plan that would either jolt Lucy back to her senses or free him from a loveless union. He flicked off the desk lamp, stepping into the silent hallway. The Whitmore mansion was large, each corridor echoing with memories of a once happy family. He paused at a door leading to Stella's old bedroom. She was away at college, presumably living it up with Lucy's blessing. Henry had tried to call her thrice this week, only to get brief, disinterested responses. She was busy, she said, or studying, though Lucy bragged Stella's main extracurricular was partying. He pressed his palm to the door, quietly resigning himself to the fact that Stella, too, might face tough lessons once his plan unfurled. He left for his own bedroom, the emptiness symbolizing Lucy's absence. He noticed the rummaged state of Lucy's vanity, a sign she'd changed outfits multiple times before going out. The hamper overflowed with expensive dresses, cast aside after they no longer excited her. The dryness of Henry's throat told him he needed water, but more than that, he needed the clarity of final resolve. Slipping under the covers, Henry stared at the ceiling. He knew tomorrow he'd finalize step one, instructing his personal attorney, Douglas, to enact certain financial realignments. Next, he'd speak with the family's longtime financial advisor about pulling Lucy's name from discretionary accounts. He'd approach Stella's trust, ensuring it was locked until she turned 30, unless she fulfilled certain conditions. He'd quietly notify the house staff of changes, offering them generous severance packages if Lucy attempted to retaliate or manipulate them. He'd do it all swiftly, methodically, like a well-executed corporate takeover. He was done being the docile provider. Chapter 2. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee drifted through the sunlit kitchen. Henry, wearing a crisp white shirt and slacks, typed notes on his phone regarding a board meeting that afternoon. He also had to schedule a call with Douglas. Lucy still wasn't home. He glimpsed the large clock. 8:30 a.m. Usually, she'd appear by now if she wanted to maintain appearances, but evidently she didn't care. He sipped coffee, mind swirling with details, when the front door finally clicked open. Lucy stepped in, wearing last night's dress, hair disheveled. She froze upon seeing Henry in the kitchen, a flash of annoyance crossing her face. She tried for a casual tone. "Early riser as usual, Henry?" He regarded her calmly. "Looks like you had a late night, Lucy?" She shrugged, placing her designer purse on the countertop. "It was a good party. Adam introduced me to some interesting philanthropic circles. There might be a charity event soon perfect for Stella to network." He hid the contempt twisting in his gut. "I see. Busy night?" She walked to the fridge, ignoring the tension. "Aren't you heading to the office?" He turned back to his phone. "In about an hour. I have a meeting with lawyers first." A flicker of alarm crossed Lucy's eyes. "Lawyers? Everything all right with the company?" "Everything's fine," Henry said, barely concealing the double meaning behind his words. "Just routine housekeeping." She grabbed a bottle of sparkling water, casting him a sidelong glance. "Don't bore them with your endless spreadsheets," she teased, then frowned. "Your face looks serious. Did something happen last night?" He nearly laughed. "Why would something have happened last night? I was at home, like the predictable husband you claim I am." She grimaced, sensing an undercurrent she couldn't quite pinpoint. "Well, maybe lighten up. You know, you can come out with me sometime if you want to see what real fun looks like." The scorn in her voice stung. He forced a neutral nod. "Perhaps. Though we each have our own definitions of fun, Lucy. Don't forget that," she shrugged. "Suit yourself. I'm going up to shower." She drifted from the kitchen, leaving behind a swirl of expensive perfume. Henry exhaled slowly, letting the coffee's warmth brace him. Lucy had no idea she was dancing on the edge of a cliff. He typed a final text to Douglas. "Ready? Let's proceed." Then he left for his meeting. Henry arrived at a discreet law firm's office downtown. Douglas, a trim man in his 50s with keen eyes, greeted him in a private conference room. "Everything's prepared," Douglas said quietly. "I've quadruple-checked the prenuptial agreement. Lucy waived spousal claims to any property purchased under your separate corporate identity. The same for intangible assets. She only retains joint interest in the original home you bought together the first year of marriage, but you sold that property ages ago to upgrade to the current mansion, which is in your name alone." Henry nodded, grateful for his own foresight and Lucy's earlier ignorance. She had cared so little about the boring legal stuff that she'd signed off on almost everything. "What about Stella's trust?" Douglas slid a folder across the table. "Per your instructions, it's locked unless Stella meets certain milestones, completing her degree with a minimum GPA, no arrests, proven financial responsibility for at least 1 year. Otherwise, it's inaccessible until she's 30. Henry let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He hated to impose such harsh terms, but Stella's destructive spending and Lucy's enabling had forced his hand. "And the mansion? The staff?" Douglas tapped a second folder. "We have severance packages for staff, effective upon your personal instruction." We can reassign them or give them references if Lucy tries to keep them. The deed is solely in your name, courtesy of the way we structured the purchase. Lucy contributed 0 from her personal funds, so she's not legally entitled to it. Henry pressed his fingertips together. So if Lucy refuses to leave, we can enforce an eviction? Douglas nodded. Yes, though we'll do it gently. We'll give her notice, a few weeks to find alternate arrangements if that's your wish. The prenuptial is clear. If Lucy commits an act that constitutes public disgrace or moral turpitude, like open infidelity, she forfeits any claim to your property. We can interpret her overt flirtation with Adam at social events as emotional or physical betrayal if we gather enough evidence. Henry felt a pang. He'd never wanted to be this man, rummaging for grounds to push his wife out, but Lucy had forced his hand. We'll proceed carefully. Let's hold a chunk of evidence in reserve just in case. I'd like to handle this with minimal public drama. Douglas gave a respectful nod. Understood. And Henry, for what it's worth, this is a strong arrangement. Lucy can't claim ignorance. Her signatures are everywhere. Henry's heart hammered. All right, let's do it. With that, he signed a series of documents authorizing major changes. Within 48 hours, Lucy's credit lines would be severed, the mansion's deed reconfirmed in Henry's name alone, and staff would receive instructions. Stella's trust would be sealed. The family's social circle would be quietly notified that Henry no longer endorsed Lucy's expenses or Stella's bills. They parted ways, Douglas promising swift execution. Henry stepped onto the bustling sidewalk, feeling an unaccustomed weight on his shoulders. He was effectively destroying the life Lucy and Stella took for granted, but they'd destroyed him first, in small humiliations, daily indignities that told him he was worthless in their eyes. Now, they'd learn his worth. Chapter 3. Lucy was startled to see Henry back early, stepping into the foyer with an air of grim determination. She was half-dressed for another lunch outing with Brooklyn, but Henry's presence halted her. She forced a smile. You're home early. Something happened at the office? He hung up his coat with care. Just had a productive morning. We'll talk later. I need to review some files in my study. He turned away, offering no further explanation. She frowned, suspicious. Usually he'd share at least a snippet of his day. All right, she said, following him. You've been cryptic lately. Is there trouble with Whitmore Shield? A competitor, perhaps? He paused, leveling an unreadable gaze at her. No trouble. Everything's under control. Actually, the company's doing better than ever. Didn't you mention wanting more philanthropic endeavors, Lucy? Perhaps you'll have the time now. Her eyes narrowed. The subtle dig stung. Time? For what? He gave a ghost of a smile. Charity. Volunteering whatever you fancy. I suspect you'll be quite free in the near future. Before Lucy could respond, the doorbell chimed. Brooklyn breezed in, wearing a designer outfit. Lucy, we're late for our lunch date with Adam. Chop, chop. Lucy's tension spiked, aware Henry was hearing every word. Yes, I'm coming. She turned to Henry. Don't wait up. We might do some shopping after. He just nodded. Enjoy your day. As the two women left, Lucy whispered to Brooklyn, Henry's acting so strange. He's never this cold. Brooklyn shrugged. He's probably jealous about Adam. Good. Maybe he needs to realize you're a catch. Lucy tried to laugh, but the unsettled feeling remained. At a chic restaurant downtown, Lucy and Brooklyn joined Adam at a reserved table. Lucy forced herself to lighten up, but Adam's presence felt less thrilling today. She found herself distracted by Henry's odd demeanor. She recalled the way he had said, "We'll talk later," as though anticipating confrontation. Adam, oblivious, was all charm, praising Lucy's outfit, making quips about the stodgy corporate types Lucy was forced to endure at home. Brooklyn shot Lucy a meaningful grin as if to say, "See? This is the kind of man who appreciates you." Lucy tried to join the banter, sipping an expensive cocktail that Adam offered to pay for. While Adam recounted an anecdote about a venture capital deal in Europe, Lucy's phone pinged one new text from Henry. "Check your bank accounts." She froze, confused. Another ping. "And Stella's trust." Lucy's heart hammered. Adam noticed her expression, leaning in. "Something wrong?" She forced a laugh. "Just my husband reminding me to watch my spending, probably." But inside, dread formed. She excused herself to the restroom, opening her banking app. The main joint account, a place she frequently withdrew funds, showed a drastically reduced balance. "Impossible," she muttered. Another check revealed her separate personal account. 0. This can't be right. She recalled that Henry was the primary account holder. She tried Stella's trust account locked, inaccessible. What the hell is he doing? She returned to the table, pale-faced. Brooklyn noticed. "You look like you saw a ghost." Lucy swallowed. "I think Henry just froze everything." Adam frowned. "Is that even legal?" Brooklyn waved a manicured hand. "Surely not. Lucy's half of everything is hers, right?" But Lucy's mind reeled with the memory of their prenuptial agreement, something she'd signed back when Henry was just a rising star, and she, enthralled by the idea of marrying a stable genius, she had never cared to read the fine print. "I need to talk to Henry," she said, half standing. Adam placed a hand on her wrist. "We're in the middle of lunch, Lucy. Let's not get worked up. I can help if there's a short-term liquidity problem. Lend you some cash." She forced a tight smile. "Thank you, but I need to see what Henry is up to first." She tossed her napkin, ignoring Brooklyn's scowl. "I'll call you." Without waiting, Lucy hurried out, her mind racing with possibilities. This had to be some glitch or a petty move by Henry to teach her a lesson. But he wouldn't, would he? She shivered, recalling that cunning glint in his eyes earlier. Chapter 4. Lucy burst into the mansion, calling for Henry. The staff offered polite shrugs, explaining he was likely in his study. She found him in there, calm as ever, laptop open, speaking softly to someone on the phone. He gestured for her to wait. She fumed, arms crossed, until he ended the call. "Henry, what did you do to our accounts?" He leaned back in his chair. "I restructured them, Lucy, for our mutual protection." She slammed a hand on the desk. "Don't play games. My cards are locked. The accounts show near 0. How is that mutual protection?" He tapped a file. "We can discuss it, but calmly. I left you a text to check so you wouldn't be blindsided." She almost exploded. "Blindsided? I can't even fill my car with gas right now if I wanted to. Why are you punishing me?" He regarded her with quiet disappointment. "You truly see any boundary as punishment, don't you?" "Lucy, I'm simply ensuring finances are under control, given recent circumstances. Your spending soared 40% in the last quarter alone. Meanwhile, Stella's demands keep growing." She glared. "So you freeze everything without warning? That's controlling, Henry. You can't treat me like a child." He exhaled. "No, Lucy. I'm treating you like an adult who must face the consequences of her actions. Our prenuptial agreement clearly states that any property or wealth derived from my separate corporate earnings remains mine if I deem the marriage compromised." Her face paled. "Compromised? You mean me going out with Adam for networking? That's your grounds to do this?" He let silence answer. She realized, with creeping horror, that Henry's methodical approach encompassed emotional betrayal as a valid reason to invoke certain clauses in their prenuptial. "Henry, we've been married over 20 years. You can't just turn off my entire life over a few parties." He rose, stepping around the desk, not menacing but firm. "Lucy, I've asked you countless times to respect our finances, our marriage. Instead, you belittle me publicly, encourage Stella to do the same, and flaunt your closeness with Adam. Did you expect me to do nothing forever?" She stumbled over her words. I never thought you'd go this far. My father's estate contributed to our lifestyle, too. Let me remind you." He gave a mirthless chuckle. "Your father left you a modest inheritance, which you burned through years ago on that boutique fiasco. Remember how I covered the losses so your embarrassment wouldn't be public? The rest is all from me. There's no money left from your father, Lucy." Her eyes burned with tears. "So that's it? You plan to humiliate me? Force me to beg for an allowance like some desperate wife from the 1950s? He shook his head. "No. I'm giving you the chance to reflect, Lucy. If you want to continue this marriage, we'll renegotiate on my terms. If you prefer your freedom, you can have it, but without my financial backing. That's how prenuptials work." She clenched her fists. "That's blackmail." He shrugged. "Call it what you will. I call it protecting myself after your repeated betrayals." Her phone buzzed, a text from Brooklyn. "Help me with the lunch tab? My card got declined, too." Lucy realized that Henry must have extended these measures to entire auxiliary lines of credit Lucy had set up under Brooklyn's name. She forced herself to maintain composure. "We're not done talking," she spat. "Certainly not," Henry said softly. "But I have a board meeting. We'll revisit this tonight if you're home." Then he breezed past her, leaving Lucy standing in the study's hush, her chest tight with panic. Hours later, Lucy paced in the living room, trying to call Stella. The phone rang until it went to voicemail. Eventually, Stella texted, "Mom, the bursar says my tuition check bounced. Something about Dad? Call me now." Lucy typed a frantic reply, urging Stella to come home that weekend so they could figure it out. She omitted the humiliating details. She told Stella, "Your father's messing with finances. We must stand together." Stella's final text read, "Dad's ignoring my calls. Is he punishing me for wanting more independence? I can't lose my dorm. I'm freaking out." Lucy felt a pang of maternal guilt. She had always told Stella to see Henry as an endless resource. Now that resource had shut down. They were both stuck. By evening, Lucy found herself alone in the mansion. Henry was presumably at a business dinner. She nursed a glass of wine, mind whirling. She'd thought to confront him, but he was cunningly absent. She called Adam, hoping for comfort, but he said he was busy and seemed uneasy about this financial meltdown. "I can't get involved in marital disputes," he apologized. "I have my reputation to protect." Lucy realized with cold clarity that Adam wouldn't rescue her. He was a fair-weather flirt, not a savior. She ended the call, tears stinging. Everyone was deserting her now that Henry's net was closed. She considered going to her mother's house, but her mother had passed away years ago. Brooklyn was hardly reliable. The hours ticked by in a silent, darkening mansion that felt more like a tomb. Meanwhile, Henry concluded his board dinner at a refined steakhouse. He'd remained polite, even jovial, but inside, satisfaction roiled. He checked messages. Lucy had called 5 times, Stella thrice. No surprise. They were feeling the pinch. He scrolled to a text from Douglas. "Implementation completed. Staff severances confirmed. Next steps upon your instruction." Henry typed a quick, "Proceed as planned for next week. Gradual." He wouldn't evict Lucy overnight, but the staff would know to transition away. He left the restaurant, driving a modest sedan he'd purchased weeks ago under a separate LLC, anticipating that Lucy might try to withhold his old vehicles. The night air felt invigorating. He no longer dreaded going home. If Lucy was there. So be it. He held the advantage now. If she was gone, good riddance. Arriving at the mansion, he found it dark except for a single lamp in the living room. Lucy sat with an empty wine glass, face drawn. She didn't jump up or berate him, which surprised him. Instead, her tone was subdued. "Henry, we need to talk." He set down his keys. "All right." She inhaled shakily. "You froze everything. My cards, Stella's tuition, all of it. This is extreme. We can't function. Stella might lose her dorm. I can't pay the staff. Are you truly cutting us off?" He studied her with measured calm. "Yes, Lucy. You forced my hand. This is the consequence of your repeated humiliation of me, your disregard for the marriage, and your encouragement of Stella's manipulative habits. I won't be the silent victim anymore." A flicker of anger flared in her eyes. "You're punishing our daughter for my mistakes? She's only 19. Henry softened, but not enough to relent. "I'm not punishing her. She can continue at her university if she learns responsibility. I set conditions for her trust. If she meets them, the trust reopens." Lucy bit her lip. "She's going to hate you." He sighed. "She already does. Not by her own fault, but by your constant insinuations that I'm too rigid. Let her hate me if that's the price for her to grow up." He paused. "As for you, Lucy, we can proceed one of two ways. You can abide by the prenuptial and remain in this house under my revised conditions, or you can leave and file for divorce. But you'll walk away with nothing except personal items you truly paid for." Her voice cracked. "After 22 years, that's all I mean to you." He gave a wry smile. Chapter 5. Henry's quiet words hung in the stillness of the foyer. He'd offered Lucy two paths: remain under his new terms, or depart with nothing. She stared at him, half in shock, half in anger. Exhaustion lined her face. Whatever illusions she'd harbored about easily reversing this predicament were rapidly dissolving. Finally, Lucy found her voice. "You can't just cast me aside like a piece of garbage, Henry. I built this life with you." He arched an eyebrow. "Did you? I recall your father's small inheritance vanished in your failed boutique project. The rest, for the last 2 decades, was financed by me. I gave you credit for moral support and companionship, but when that turned to mockery and betrayal, what else remains?" She swallowed, tears threatening but unshed. "So you do want a divorce? Is that it?" Henry's expression held an edge of finality. "I want respect. If that requires a divorce, so be it. However, if you prefer to keep the marriage purely as a formality or to salvage your reputation, then you accept my guidelines. No more secret spending, no more humiliations, no more incitements from Adam or Brooklyn." Lucy fought an urge to scream. She'd never seen Henry so resolute, so merciless. "And if I refuse your guidelines?" He folded his arms. "Then pack your personal belongings, those you can prove you purchased with your own money, or before we married, and leave. I'll have the legal team finalize a swift separation. The prenuptial is ironclad. You walk away with minimal funds." A flash of defiance crossed her face. "I could fight you in court. I have a right to alimony after 22 years. Henry let a slow breath. "Try it. Our prenuptial states that proven moral turpitude or breach of marital faith voids your claims. I have enough evidence: public flirting, eyewitness accounts, your cousin's complicit remarks, text messages that strongly suggest an affair." She gasped. "You spied on me?" He gave a humorless smile. "You taught me the value of stepping out of my comfort zone. I have the evidence, Lucy, and if you push me, I'll use it. Are we clear?" Her cheeks burned. She clenched her fists. "Clear," she echoed bitterly. She whirled away, heading upstairs. Henry watched her retreat, a pang of old affection surfacing for the woman she once was. But that love had died, replaced by hard resolve. Lucy locked herself in the master bedroom's bathroom, inhaling shaky breaths. She rummaged for her phone, texting Brooklyn in a fury. "Henry is serious. He froze me out financially, says he has evidence. Need your help." A few minutes later, Brooklyn responded, "OMG, coming over. We'll fix this." Lucy took a moment to gather her composure, quickly applying concealer to hide tear streaks. She changed from her plain outfit into something more impressive, a designer blouse and tailored skirt that Henry had ironically paid for. Her reflection in the mirror didn't reassure her, though. She saw only a woman cornered by her own manipulations. Soon, Brooklyn arrived, voice echoing through the foyer as she demanded to see Lucy. Lucy led her cousin into the upstairs sitting room, away from Henry's earshot. Brooklyn tossed her glossy hair and perched on the chaise lounge. "What's this about losing all your money? Henry can't do that." Lucy paced. "He can, apparently. The accounts are drained or locked. My credit cards are canceled. He told me to abide by his new rules or get out." She recounted Henry's ultimatum, the prenuptial clauses, his evidence of moral breach. Brooklyn's eyes flashed. "Evidence? You never slept with Adam, did you?" Lucy hesitated. "No, but we certainly gave Henry reason to suspect, and the text messages, some of them might look incriminating if taken out of context." Brooklyn shook her head, exasperated. "So he's turning your life upside down over some mild flirting?" "Ridiculous! We can fight that in court. He can't possibly have real proof." Lucy bit her lip. "Henry's methodical. He might have video from the family reunion or witnesses who saw me dancing with Adam too intimately. The prenuptials coverage of emotional betrayal might actually hold up. Meanwhile, I can't pay for a top-tier lawyer. My usual lines of credit are gone." Brooklyn frowned. "Then let's talk to Adam. He's wealthy, can lend you money to hire a good attorney." Lucy sank onto the sofa, voice trembling. "I tried calling. He wouldn't pick up. He texted me that he's not comfortable intervening in a private dispute. So he's out." Brooklyn's face clouded. "That coward? We built him up at all those social gatherings, and now he abandons us? Fine. Let him vanish." "So what's left?" Lucy's question was rhetorical but pained. "I have no resources. Henry told me if I want to stay in the mansion, I must follow his rules. If I refuse, I leave with basically nothing. Even Stella's tuition is in jeopardy." She paused, anguish coloring her features. "I might have to swallow my pride and comply for now." Brooklyn's lips thinned. "You can't just roll over and do what Henry says. That's letting him win." "Where's the fierce Lucy we all know?" Exhaustion etched Lucy's features. "I've spent years ignoring Henry's quiet power. Now it's unstoppable. Maybe I have to show submission temporarily while I figure out a plan. If I can gather money secretly, or find a sympathetic judge, or something." She turned to her cousin, desperation flickering in her eyes. "Help me, please." Brooklyn sighed. "I'm your cousin, of course I'll help. But my finances aren't what they used to be either. I rely on the illusions of wealth more than the real thing." She wrung her hands. "We'll strategize. For now, maybe you should pretend to accept Henry's terms. Make him think he's in control. Then once he relaxes, we strike divorce him on grounds of emotional cruelty, or something." Lucy nodded, a kernel of hope igniting. "Yes, that might be the only way." Footsteps on the hallway made them fall silent. Henry's voice carried from the corridor, instructing housekeeping about downsizing staff. Lucy's eyes flashed with fresh anger. This was war, but for now she'd bide her time. 3 days later, Stella arrived at the mansion after Henry apparently arranged for her bus ticket home, a bus ticket. Of all indignities. She marched in with a battered suitcase, face livid. Lucy was in the living room flipping through property tax documents she barely understood. Brooklyn sat nearby offering moral support. The moment Stella saw Lucy, she exploded. "What is going on? Dad is ignoring me and I can't pay my meal plan. Everyone at school knows I'm cut off. This is humiliating." Lucy tried to stand, arms outstretched. "Honey, calm down. We're working on it." Stella dropped her suitcase in frustration. "Working on what?" "Dad's locked my trust. My credit card got declined at the cafeteria. My friends treat me like a leper. Half of them probably only like me because of the money we used to have. Now I'm a joke." Brooklyn approached carefully. "Sweetie, your father's punishing you and your mom for not giving him respect. It's complicated." Stella's eyes sparked with resentment. "Why can't Dad just loosen up?" "Yes, we teased him, but that's no reason to ruin my life." Lucy pressed her lips. "He says, we forced his hand. He's imposing conditions on your trust like working a job, maintaining a certain GPA, and no unethical behavior. If you do that for a year, you might get partial access. Otherwise, you must wait until you're 30. Stella gave a bitter laugh. "Work a job? He's insane. I'm a full-time student, and GPA? My classes are tough. If I fail to meet some arbitrary standard, I'll be stuck in poverty." Brooklyn sighed. "Yes, basically. Henry's serious. He's used the prenuptial and trust documents to corner you both. He planned this meticulously." Stella turned to Lucy, tears brimming. "Mom, fix this. You always said Dad was a big teddy bear, that he'd never actually do anything extreme. You said we could manipulate him. So, manipulate him back." Lucy's shame blossomed. She sank onto the couch. "I tried, Stella. He's too prepared. I have no leverage, unless I can prove his finances are questionable or that he's done something unethical. But Henry is squeaky clean, especially in business. He's built an untouchable fortress." Stella collapsed beside her mother. For a moment they clung to each other, both shaken by the unstoppable force Henry had become. "What do we do now?" Stella whispered. "We endure," Lucy replied softly. "I'm going to try a different approach. If I can appease Henry, pretend I accept his rules, maybe over time he'll relent. Meanwhile, we keep our eyes open for any slip. Maybe we can find a reason to break the prenuptial or force a better settlement. We just have to act carefully." Stella frowned. "Live under his thumb? Ugh. But I guess we have no choice." Brooklyn looked unconvinced. "This is humiliating. Lucy, you can't truly let him treat you like a subordinate. You might lose your dignity." Lucy's throat constricted. "I lost my dignity the moment I let him see me dancing with Adam. Or the moment I bragged publicly about how boring Henry was. This is the bed I made. For Stella's sake, I'll endure it for now." The decision settled. Mother and daughter braced themselves for a long game of feigned compliance. Chapter 6. Lucy's plan to cooperate with Henry took root awkwardly. She aimed to show contrition, to appear grateful for whatever scraps of funding Henry offered. Meanwhile, Stella half-heartedly tried to appear remorseful, hoping Henry would unfreeze her college expenses. Their changed attitudes did not fool Henry for a second, though he kept silent, watching them with calculating eyes. One evening, Henry unexpectedly announced they'd have a family dinner in the formal dining room. Lucy perked up an opportunity to bond? She directed the skeleton staff to prepare a modest meal. Their personal chef had resigned under Henry's new arrangement, so Lucy did most tasks herself, cursing her lack of culinary skill. When dinner time arrived, Lucy and Stella waited at the table. The lavish room felt emptier than before, the grand chandelier's glow illuminating the tension. Henry entered, impeccably dressed, carrying a few documents under his arm. He took his seat at the head. "Thank you for preparing dinner," he said calmly to Lucy. She forced a small smile. "Of course. I wanted to show I can be supportive." Stella fiddled with her phone. "I asked about reactivating my meal plan at college. Dad, can we talk about that?" Henry served himself some roasted vegetables, methodically. "We can, but let's begin with a civil conversation. Tell me, Stella, how are your classes going?" Stella bristled. "Fine, I guess." He gazed at her steadily. "Grades?" She shrugged. "I'm doing okay. B's, maybe a C or two, but the stress—" He raised a hand. "You want me to pay your next tuition installment, correct? Then I want you to demonstrate seriousness. Maybe get B's or higher in all courses this semester and hold a part-time job on campus. If you can show me a pay stub verifying consistent work, I'll consider releasing partial funds." Stella gaped. "A job and a B average? Are you all that's going to ruin my social life? I was on track to join that top sorority." Henry sipped water, unyielding. "You asked for your father's support. These are my terms." Lucy intervened, her voice placating. "Henry, let's ease up. She's adjusting." "Maybe a job next semester." He turned to Lucy. "No. She must learn responsibility now. If she can't handle it, she's free to drop out or find other means. I will not finance a lifestyle of partying and disrespect." A heavy silence followed, broken only by utensils clinking. Lucy tried to salvage the meal. "So, Henry, how was your day at Whitmore Shield? Any new contracts?" She remembered how he used to enjoy discussing business expansions. He gave a tight nod. "Yes, a major deal with an international airport. Business is robust. Thank you for asking." Then he fixed Lucy with a calm stare. "And you, Lucy? How was your day without credit cards?" She flushed. I spent at home mostly. I took care of housekeeping matters." He raised an eyebrow. "I appreciate that. Our housekeeping staff is reduced. I intend to fully release them soon to find new positions. You'll manage the house yourself or pay for help from your personal funds, if you have any left from your father's inheritance." The subtle jab stung. Lucy inhaled sharply, fighting an outburst. She forced a conciliatory tone. "Henry, I'm prepared to accept that we need to cut back, and I apologize for the way I disrespected you. I hope we can find a path forward that's less tense." He nodded, though skepticism lingered in his eyes. "Words are cheap, Lucy. Actions matter. But let's keep this dinner civil. We can finalize some details after dessert." Stella couldn't resist one barb. "Dessert? Are we sure we can afford a dessert? Or do I have to prove I deserve it by scrubbing floors?" Henry gave her a measured look. "If you want to remain in this house, I'd watch your sarcasm, Stella. This isn't the time." She deflated, cowed by his unwavering authority. Lucy's heart hurt for her daughter, but she recognized Stella's snide remarks no longer found traction. Henry had absolute control now. She rose to fetch dessert from the kitchen, a humble tray of store-bought pastries. When the meal ended, Henry stacked his plates, an uncharacteristically domestic gesture. "Thank you. This was acceptable. Lucy, let's talk in the study for a moment. Stella, we'll address your tuition after we finalize a schedule for your part-time job." Stella rolled her eyes but said nothing, retreating to her bedroom. Lucy followed Henry to the study, nerves jumping. In the study, Henry motioned Lucy to sit. He took a seat behind the large desk, reminiscent of an employer addressing an employee. She suppressed a surge of anger. He placed a typed document before her. "These are the revised guidelines for your staying in the mansion. Read them carefully. If you sign, you agree to them. If you refuse, I'll expect you to vacate within a week." Lucy's throat tightened as she scanned the bullet points. Financial curfew. Lucy must abide by a weekly personal allowance of a set modest amount. No further spending from any joint or corporate accounts. Social discretion. No public or private gatherings with Adam or any perceived romantic interest. No humiliating references to Henry. Household management. Lucy is responsible for day-to-day chores and groceries once staff is fully released. She must provide receipts to Henry weekly for reimbursements. Respect. Clause. Any future public belittling or emotional betrayal triggers immediate forfeiture of lodging privileges. Reevaluation. After 6 months of compliance, Henry may revisit the allowance or discuss further. It read like a draconian contract. Lucy's cheeks burned at the paternalistic tone. She forced composure. "This is humiliating," he shrugged. "Humiliating for you, perhaps. But you humiliated me for years. Now we have an official structure for coexisting under one roof. If you can't stomach it, you're free to leave." She trembled. "And if we do end up divorcing," he tapped the final page, "I'll revert to the original prenuptial. You walk away with virtually nothing. This is your compromise if you want time to figure out an alternative or if you want to reconcile in good faith. Your call." Lucy felt tears prick her eyes. She recalled the naive 23-year-old she'd been, signing that prenuptial because Henry, then a rising star, had insisted they keep finances separate. She'd believed wholeheartedly in his success. She never expected she'd have to rely on the agreement's fine print. "I see," she muttered, scrawling a shaky signature. "Fine, Henry. I'll comply, for Stella's sake at least." She turned away, fury mingling with defeat. He stored the documents in a locked drawer, nodding curtly. "We'll see if you can keep your end." The next day, the staff departed after heartfelt goodbyes, many tearful. Henry had given them generous severance, ensuring their loyalty. Lucy watched them go, feeling the house's emptiness acutely. She dreaded the menial tasks that loomed. Stella retreated to her room, refusing to help. Henry locked himself in the study much of the day, orchestrating business deals. Lucy attempted to do the laundry, clumsily operating machines she had never needed to use. She burned with resentment. At lunch, she rummaged in the kitchen, trying to cook something passable. The stove beeped alarms as she messed up the settings. A swirl of smoke rose, prompting the overhead vent to whir. She coughed, half laughing at the absurdity. The once queen of social gatherings, now failing at basic cooking. Stella emerged, wrinkling her nose. "That smell? Are you burning everything?" Lucy glared. "If you won't help, hush. I'm trying my best. Maybe you should learn too. You can't rely on a cafeteria that's no longer free." Stella gave an exasperated grunt, storming back to her room. Lucy sighed, returning to salvage the charred meal. So this was the new normal, a commoner's life she once scorned. She realized she might need to get used to it if she intended to outlast Henry's conditions. Later, Lucy found Stella rummaging in the walk-in closet that once belonged to Lucy. Stella pulled out designer shoes and handbags. "What are you doing?" Lucy asked warily. Stella's eyes were bloodshot from tears. "I can't stand it, Mom. I can't go back to campus broke. I'm going to sell these on that online fashion resale site. Some items might fetch thousands. Maybe that'll cover a partial tuition payment. Then Dad can't block me, right?" Lucy was uncertain. "But Henry might claim those as purchased with his money. He might block the sale." Stella's jaw clenched. "I'll do it quietly. He can't track every bag, every shoe. I'll ship them off, get the money direct to my personal account. The site will wire me discreetly. Dad can't freeze everything." Lucy tried caution. "Careful, Stella. If Henry catches you, he'll see it as theft of items he bought. That might break your compliance. He'll throw you out." Stella's eyes blazed. "What does it matter? He's thrown me out emotionally anyway. I'd rather risk it than live like a beggar." She stuffed items into large boxes, ignoring Lucy's half-hearted protests. Lucy felt torn. On one hand, she sympathized with Stella's desperation. On the other, she feared Henry's wrath. Ultimately, Lucy found herself helping Stella pick out the most valuable designer pieces, collectible limited edition handbags, iconic red-soled heels. They took photos, posted them online under an alias, hoping to escape Henry's notice. Stella forced a smile. In a week, I might have enough to pay the bursar so I can re-register for classes. Dad will never know he's busy with his deals. Lucy's gut churned. If Henry discovered this, it would be war. But maybe, just maybe, they'd slip under his radar. Chapter 7. The next week brought a swirl of tension. Lucy complied outwardly with Henry's household responsibilities. She cooked badly, cleaned clumsily, and kept conversation polite. Henry watched her with a bemused detachment, occasionally offering a curt, "Thank you." Meanwhile, Stella spent hours on her phone, finalizing secret sales of the contraband fashion items. They prayed Henry wouldn't notice the missing shoes or handbags amidst the mansion's sprawl. Henry wasn't blind to the changes in Lucy's behavior. She seemed subdued, apologetic, yet he felt her resentment simmering beneath the surface. He suspected she was searching for an escape route. As for Stella, she no longer mocked him openly, but she also avoided him, creeping around like a cornered cat. Henry's instincts told him something was up. One evening, after Lucy had gone to bed, Henry roamed the hallways, checking for anything unusual. He found the master closet strangely bare in certain sections, where Lucy used to store her prized handbag collection. Suspicion flared. He recalled how Lucy once boasted about those items' value. Could Stella be trying to liquidate them? He retreated to his study, pulling up a few stealthy internet monitoring tools he'd installed on the mansion's network. Yes, Lucy and Stella had their personal devices, but Henry's security expertise let him intercept certain data. He located a flurry of activity on a luxury resale platform, new messages from an IP inside the mansion. It included listing pictures obviously taken in the mansion's closet. Henry exhaled a small sigh, so they were selling off items behind his back. He weighed, confronting them immediately. But perhaps letting them continue, collecting more evidence, would strengthen his hand. The more they violated the new agreement, the more justification he'd have to impose consequences. He decided to wait. Carefully. Meanwhile, Lucy believed their scheme was working. Stella discreetly shipped out a batch of items using private carriers. Within days, money began appearing in Stella's new personal account, $4,000, then $6,500, then another $3,200. Lucy felt a thrill of relief, seeing potential to repay Stella's tuition. She fantasized about maybe amassing enough to secure a small apartment, then divorcing Henry on friendlier terms. Perhaps they could keep a low profile and avoid scandal. Brooklyn, upon hearing the partial success, encouraged them. Yes, keep going. I know a buyer who loves limited edition heels. You can make thousands more. Lucy's spirits lifted. She started rummaging for more items to sell, ignoring the risk. She also found old jewelry Henry gave her for anniversaries. Did those count as personal or his property? She rationalized they were personal gifts, so fair game. Stella kept pressing for bigger, quicker sales. We can triple this if we sell your diamond necklace from last year's vow renewal. Or that watch Dad wore once, Mom. We can pass it off as yours, right? Lucy balked. That was definitely Henry's watch. Better not push it, she cautioned, afraid to cross a line too obviously. Stella grumbled but listened. Every day they prayed Henry wouldn't notice the intensifying shipments. Lucy masked them by scheduling pickups at random hours, instructing the carriers to ring discreetly. She used the allowance Henry gave her to pay for shipping labels, then recouped it from Stella's new account. So far, so good, they thought. Henry, wanting to see if Lucy's contrite facade extended beyond the mansion, announced a small family gathering at the house, an intimate dinner with Henry's mother, Evelyn, and father, Thomas, plus his sister, Melissa. Lucy bristled at having to host them without staff, but complied. She dreaded facing Evelyn, who had always disliked Lucy's extravagance. On the designated evening, Lucy and Stella struggled to cook a passable meal. Lucy fumbled with a roast while Stella botched a sauce. In calmer times, Lucy would have ordered gourmet catering. Now Henry insisted no outside catering unless Lucy paid from her personal money, which she had none of, aside from selling items she didn't want Henry to know about. Evelyn and Thomas arrived, stepping inside the once bustling mansion to find Lucy looking harried in an apron, Stella sullenly slicing bread. Evelyn, a stately older woman with steel-gray hair, raised an eyebrow. "What happened to your staff, Lucy?" Lucy forced a polite smile. "We're scaling back, Evelyn. Times are changing." Henry entered behind them, greeting his parents warmly. "They're making dinner themselves tonight. Quite a shift from the old days, isn't it?" Evelyn pursed her lips. "Indeed. Let's see if you can cook as well as you used to spend money." The barb was pointed. Lucy colored but said nothing. Stella just avoided eye contact. During dinner, which turned out bland and overcooked, Henry's father Thomas asked, "So, Lucy, how are you adjusting to a simpler life? Henry told us about your new agreement." Lucy almost choked on her dry roast. She cast Henry a sideways glare. He apparently informed his parents about the fiasco. But she answered calmly, "It's an adjustment, but we're managing. I realize I overstepped in the past, and Henry is graciously guiding us back to basics." Stella stared at her plate, a scowl forming. She mumbled, "I'm not used to cooking or cleaning, but Dad says we have to." Henry nodded. "It's good for building character, Stella." He turned to his parents. "I want to ensure Lucy and Stella appreciate the fundamentals. This family dynamic needed a reset." Evelyn sipped water. "Better late than never, Henry. I told you years ago to watch out for extravagance, but I'm relieved you're handling it now." Lucy's anger flared, but remained tamped down. She forced a small laugh. "Yes, Evelyn, your advice was always wise." Henry's mother smirked, clearly savoring Lucy's subdued posture. The meal dragged on with polite but tense conversation. Lucy inwardly cursed Henry for orchestrating this humiliating display. She cast glances at Stella, who was uncharacteristically silent, occasionally shooting Lucy an anxious look as if to say, "We have to put up with this." Lucy discreetly nodded, silently reaffirming, "We'll endure for now." After dinner, the guests left, praising Henry for the meal, though it was mediocre. Henry excused himself to the study while Lucy and Stella cleaned up. They scrubbed dishes in near silence, each weighed by the evening's tension. Once done, Stella retreated to the master closet to gather more sale items. Lucy busied herself wiping the counters. Suddenly, Stella's panicked voice echoed from upstairs. "Mom! Mom!" Lucy dropped the cloth, rushing up. "Stella, what?" She found Stella in the closet near Henry's side. A tall glass cabinet, once containing Henry's rare watch collection, was half empty. But the primary watch Henry sometimes wore, the one Stella had considered selling, was missing. On top of that, a hamper they used to hide some unsold bags and shoes was overturned, rummaged. The items they intended to sell next were gone. "They're gone, Mom," Stella wailed. "All of it is missing." Lucy's heart raced. "Gone? Did we misplace them?" Stella shook her head. "No. I locked them in that hamper. Now it's empty. Henry must have discovered them and taken them. He knows. Lucy reeled, fighting panic. Stay calm. Maybe he just rearranged something. Let's check his study or ask him. But dread hammered in her chest. If Henry realized they were stealing and selling items, it might be the final breach. They scrambled, searching the bedroom, the closet's hidden corners. Nothing. Lucy parted the hamper lining to find only a note scrawled in Henry's handwriting. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Stella read it, trembling. We're doomed. Downstairs, the front door opened. Henry returning from walking Evelyn and Thomas to their car. Lucy and Stella gave each other wild looks. Lucy muttered, Let me handle it. Hide in your room for now. Stella nodded, tears threatening. Lucy stood, smoothing her hair. She forced herself to descend the stairs calmly, stepping into the foyer. Henry was there, removing his jacket. He glanced up, expression unreadable. She swallowed. Henry, did you by any chance move some items from the master closet? He gave a small, knowing smile. You mean the watches or those designer handbags? Yes, I secured them. They belong to me, after all. Lucy's voice shook. But some were gifts to me. You have no right. He cut her off. Gifts purchased with my funds. Under the prenuptial terms, anything that cost above $500 can be contested if I prove it was not truly a separate property gift, or if given in the context of a marriage now undermined. Considering your recent breach of trust, I'm reclaiming them. She bristled. Breach of trust? We're abiding by your conditions. We haven't done anything. He took a step closer, the air thick with confrontation. Oh, Lucy, don't insult my intelligence. I'm aware you and Stella have been systematically selling these items online, siphoning the proceeds into a hidden account. Did you truly believe I wouldn't track the data traffic on our home network? I run a security tech company, Lucy. Her heart pounded. We needed money for Stella's tuition. You left us no choice. Henry's eyes flashed. I gave you a choice. Comply openly or leave. Instead, you tried to cheat behind my back. That's violating our new agreement. Let me see the contract you signed. He pulled out the folder from a side table, flipping to a clause. Any surreptitious disposal or sale of marital assets shall result in immediate forfeiture of lodging privileges. Lucy paled. Henry, please. I'm sorry. I should have come to you directly, but you wouldn't listen. Stella is desperate. His voice hardened. Stella's desperation doesn't excuse theft. You lied to me again, Lucy, right after you promised otherwise. That's the second time you've humiliated me. If we count the Adam fiasco as the first. She trembled. Don't do anything rash, Henry. This is our home. He shook his head. It was our home. Now it's mine exclusively. He softened, fractionally. You see, Lucy, I'm not so monstrous that I want you on the street. But you forced my hand again. I'll give you 2 days to vacate. After that, I'll file formal eviction. If you want to stay married in name, we can discuss your living somewhere else. I'm done letting you sabotage me under this roof. Tears finally slipped from Lucy's eyes. You can't be serious? Where will Stella and I go? Henry exhaled, a trace of old pity flickering. That's your problem, Lucy. Maybe Brooklyn will house you, or you can rent an apartment. The monthly stipend I set, $1,500, still stands if you remain nominally married and abide by moral decency. But you can't live here. Not after you tried to cheat me again. She sank onto a nearby chair. $1,500 is nothing for our lifestyle. He gave a chilly shrug. You'll adapt. Or file for divorce and get even less. Because now I have proof of your second breach. The courts will see that as further justification to uphold the prenuptial. It's your choice. Lucy collapsed in sobs. This can't be real. Henry, please. But his set jaw told her he wouldn't yield. She felt the final rug pulled from under her illusions. Lucy found Stella trembling in her bedroom, hugging a pillow. Mom? What's going on? I heard him say eviction? Lucy nodded miserably. Yes. He discovered our sales. He's kicking us out in 2 days. We can't live here anymore. Stella let out a strangled cry. No, I have nowhere to go. My campus dorm is cut off because I owe them money. My roommate moved someone else in. Everything's ruined. Lucy tried to comfort her. We'll figure something out. Brooklyn might let us crash for a while, or we can find a small place to rent. Henry says he'll give me $500 a month if I stay nominally married. That's peanuts, but maybe we can use it for groceries or a bit of rent. Stella stared in horror. We can't live on $1,500. We used to spend that in a day. Tearfully, Lucy said. I know, but we have no choice. Henry's unstoppable. We messed up, Stella. Big time. They spent half the night in hushed sobs, packing clothes into suitcases. The once lavish wardrobes now had many missing pieces, ironically sold to fund Stella's tuition attempt. They wept at the irony. The stolen items were reclaimed by Henry anyway, or sold, and now worthless to them. If only they'd approached Henry more honestly. But it was too late. In the morning, Lucy and Stella faced Henry in the foyer. Henry observed their suitcases, exhaustion marking their faces. Lucy tried one last appeal. Henry, you're forcing your own daughter out. Could you at least reconsider? He eyed them. I told you I'm done with deceptions. You made your choice. I'll deposit $1,500 monthly as long as you comply with moral terms and remain married in name. But living here is off the table. Good luck. He turned away, signaling the conversation was over. Chapter 8. Lucy and Stella departed the mansion they once ruled. Pulling away in Stella's old compact sedan, the only car Lucy could keep, because it was titled in Stella's name from a minimal purchase, ironically. They headed to Brooklyn's townhouse first, hoping for immediate shelter. Brooklyn's place was cozy, but modest, funded largely by illusions of wealth. She greeted them with wide eyes, half sympathetic, half annoyed. You're actually kicked out? Henry is savage. Stella dragged a suitcase inside, tears glistening. Lucy dropped onto the sofa, voice trembling. Brooklyn, please, let us stay here for a bit until we find a place to rent. We have minimal funds. Brooklyn pursed her lips. I have a roommate now, a friend from my old modeling days. The spare bedroom is taken. But maybe you can crash on the couch for a few days. We'll figure something out. Lucy felt humiliation brimming. Just weeks ago, she and Stella teased Henry about his boring frugality. Now they were homeless, dependent on a cousin's couch. Thank you, Lucy whispered, recalling how she once flaunted her mansion in front of Brooklyn. Now the tables had turned. Stella sat cross-armed, glowering. What do we do next? I can't return to campus until I pay the bursar, and we only sold part of the bags before Henry discovered them. That money's nowhere near enough. She bit her lip. Maybe Adam ghosted me, Lucy admitted bitterly. He wants no part in defying Henry, or invests in a real lawsuit, apparently. She looked at Brooklyn. Could you loan us a bit? Just to get Stella back in class? Brooklyn looked uncomfortable. I wish I could, but my finances are in disarray. I have some credit card debt. Henry's intimidation might make my lenders wary. If they see me as your co-conspirator, sorry. Stella let out a choked sob, burying her face in her hands. Lucy felt a wave of guilt, maternal instincts roaring. She wanted to blame Henry, but deep down she knew she and Stella had orchestrated this downfall. "We'll find a small apartment. We can pay first month's rent from the leftover from Stella's partial sales." Brooklyn cleared her throat. 1 month's rent in this city is huge, Lucy. Maybe a cheaper area? Or look for a roommate situation? Lucy's pride flared at the idea of living in a shared apartment, but desperation overshadowed. "Yes, maybe that. We'll do it." She tried to sound confident. "We'll survive, and eventually we might regroup and fight for a better settlement." Brooklyn nodded slowly. "In the meantime, you'll have to be cunning. Henry's $1,500 monthly is a pittance. But if you combine it with any job or leftover from those bag sales, you can scrape by." Stella stared at them, eyes hollow. "I never wanted to scrape by. My friends are living large, partying every weekend. This is insane. I hate Dad for doing this." Lucy's mind flicked back to Henry's stoic expression. A kernel of grudging respect formed, he had warned them, endured years of disrespect, and then executed a flawless plan. "We did this to ourselves," she mumbled. But Stella refused to hear it, blaming Henry entirely. Over the next few days, Lucy and Stella scoured listings, faced with the harsh reality of rental costs. Every decent place demanded security deposits they couldn't afford. Stella's small stash from the bag sales covered maybe 2 months' rent, plus some groceries. Lucy tried calling old acquaintances, but many avoided her calls, having heard rumors of her falling out with Henry. The blow to her social status stung. Finally, they found a dingy 2-room apartment on the outskirts. The landlord eyed them suspiciously, asking for references. They had none. Lucy offered to pay 2 months up front if the sum matched $2,000, but they only had $200 left after paying a portion to Stella's bursar. Stella pleaded, "Please, we just need a place to stay for a while." The landlord shrugged. "Get me $2,000 by Friday or keep looking." Lucy bit back tears. They had 4 days. On day 2, Lucy received Henry's first $1,500 deposit, the monthly pittance, as part of his marriage terms. She almost retched at the label pittance, but it was ironically a lifeline. Combined with the last of Stella's leftover funds, they scraped together the $2,000 deposit. They moved in that weekend, lugging suitcases and boxes. The building smelled of stale cigarettes, the stairwell chipped and graffiti-laden. Lucy, used to polished marble, wanted to cry. Stella marched into the cramped living area, dropping her suitcase. "This is humiliating," she said, voice trembling. "I can't believe Dad forced us into this slum." Lucy tried for bravado. "We'll make do. It's temporary. Once we gather enough or find a legal angle, we'll confront Henry in court." But the stark environment hammered home the severity of their plight. The tiny kitchen had a decades-old stove. The bathroom's tiles were cracked. No staff, no luxuries, no illusions. They realized how deeply they'd relied on Henry for every comfort. Time dragged on. Lucy endured restless nights on a squeaky bed, passing days rummaging for job leads. Her resume was thin housewife for decades, dabbling in charity event planning, but no formal track record. Employers raised eyebrows. Meanwhile, Stella, forced to withdraw from her dorm, took menial shifts at a clothing store to prove partial responsibility, hoping Henry might relent on her tuition. She hated every minute, scanning barcodes for rude customers, her pride battered. Lucy tried to instill hope, reminding Stella that Henry's funds might flow again if Stella demonstrated sincerity. But Stella's resentment of Henry grew. She started sneaking out with questionable new friends. Lucy sensed trouble but was powerless to stop it. She was busy wrestling with her own humiliations, from grocery shopping on a tight budget to cleaning a grimy shower by herself. One day, Lucy took the bus to a job interview for a local event planning firm. The interviewer recognized her name. "Wait, aren't you Henry Whitmore's wife? We heard you parted ways." Lucy forced a smile, stammering vague denials. The interviewer probed politely, but clearly doubted Lucy's sincerity or longevity. She left with no callback. Another door closed. Weeks passed with no direct contact from Henry. He continued depositing $1,500 monthly for Lucy's allowance. The prenuptial specified that, as long as Lucy refrained from open scandal or sleeping with another man, Henry would maintain this meager support. Lucy hated the humiliating arrangement, but needed the money. Stella's minimum wage job covered only scraps. Then, unexpectedly, Lucy received a text from Henry. "Need an in-person meeting to clarify certain points about Stella's tuition. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. my office. Don't be late." Lucy's stomach lurched. She forwarded it to Stella, who grimly insisted Lucy go. "Convince Dad to pay the bursar so I can re-enroll next semester." Lucy sighed, not sure if she had any leverage left. Lucy arrived at Whitmore Shield's sleek corporate headquarters, nerves jangling. She wore her best surviving outfit, a subdued yet elegant dress. The building's glass facade gleamed. She recalled the lavish parties they once hosted to celebrate Henry's expansions. Now she walked in, uncertain if security would even let her pass. But they had her name on the guest list. A polite receptionist escorted her to Henry's 18th floor corner office. Inside, Henry sat behind a modern desk, typing. He motioned for Lucy to enter. She scanned the space, noticing large windows overlooking the city. The office exuded Henry's success, hers no longer. She tried not to show her awe. He looked up. "Lucy, thank you for coming." She mustered calm. "You summoned me. Of course I'd come." He rose, gesturing to a small conference table. "Let's sit there." They settled into chairs, a tension-laden distance between them. Henry folded his hands. "First, how are you managing? Found a place?" Her jaw clenched. "Yes, a small apartment with Stella. We're surviving." He nodded. "And Stella's job? She's trying to prove responsibility, correct?" Lucy sighed. "She's got a menial job but hates it. She's desperate to return to school full-time next semester. Henry, please, can't you pay the bursar? She'll do better, I promise." Henry studied her. "I need consistent proof, Lucy. B's or better in her current classes. Wait, is she even enrolled right now?" Lucy grimaced. "She withdrew mid-semester. The fees were unpaid, so she has to reapply. She wants to reapply for next semester." Henry's gaze hardened. "So she's not in school at all. That's not progress. She's waiting for me to bail her out again?" Lucy's voice trembled. "We had no alternative. The dorm was closed to her after the fees lapsed. Please, show some mercy." Henry paused, tapping a pen. "We can discuss a partial arrangement if she re-enrolls, paying at least some portion from her own funds. If she's working, she can set aside a fraction. Once I see genuine effort like actually applying for scholarships or financial aid, I might add a lump sum, but not a blank check." Lucy closed her eyes, relief flickering. "That's something. Thank you. I'll ensure she does so." He leaned forward. "One more thing. Your living arrangement with Stella, how is it funded? My monthly deposit plus Stella's wages can't be comfortable." She lowered her head. "It's not. We're scraping by." She avoided mentioning the bag sales fiasco. Henry might suspect, but no need to confirm. He exhaled. "I want your promise you won't repeat the stunt of secretly selling items or forging new debt in my name. Understand?" She nodded numbly. I won't. I can't risk losing even this meager support." The words tasted bitter. Henry tilted his head. "So you accept this life indefinitely? Unless you meet certain changes?" She faltered. "Yes, for now. Unless you'd prefer a formal divorce and we fight in court." He gave a rueful half-smile. "We both know how that would end for you. So fine. As long as you remain morally circumspect, I'll maintain the monthly deposit. If Stella shows genuine effort, I might pay half her tuition. She must earn the rest or get scholarships." Lucy swallowed her pride. "All right. I'll convey your terms to Stella." Henry rose, indicating the meeting was over. He escorted her to the door where she paused, voice quivering with unasked questions. "Henry, do you hate us?" His expression flickered, revealing old hurt. "Hate? That's too strong. Let's just say I lost respect for you both. I'm done letting you trample me." Then he opened the door, and Lucy was dismissed. Returning to the cramped apartment, Lucy relayed Henry's stance to Stella. Stella groaned in frustration, but recognized it was the only path forward. She grudgingly agreed to fill out re-enrollment forms, apply for financial aid. Lucy felt momentary relief. Maybe they'd salvage Stella's education, albeit in a lesser style. But nights were restless. Lucy lay awake, recalling how Henry dismissed her. Could she endure living on scraps forever? Should she sue him, though the prenuptial was ironclad? She wondered if there was a secret about Henry's empire she could exploit some shady deal that might leverage a better settlement. She resolved to investigate, scanning business news for any hint of Whitmore Shield controversy. So far, she found none. Henry was squeaky clean. Brooklyn visited occasionally, dismayed at the conditions. She brought gossip. "Adam has a new fiancée. He's skipping town soon." So, no help from that quarter. Lucy's hope of a gallant rescue died again. "We're alone," Lucy murmured. "Unless we find dirt on Henry." Brooklyn tisked. "That's a tall order. Everyone sees him as a paragon of honesty." Stella, overhearing, frowned. "I just want to finish school. Let's not escalate again, Mom. We keep losing every time." Lucy felt a pang, surprised at Stella's sudden caution. Out of the blue, Lucy received a call from Douglas Henry's longtime attorney. She recognized the number, but answered warily. "Hello?" Douglas cleared his throat. "Lucy, sorry to bother you. I'm reaching out on Henry's behalf to clarify some older property records. He wants confirmation about the boutique fiasco. Something about whether any leftover equipment or lease might be in your name. We need to finalize disposal of those assets." Lucy stiffened. That old boutique had been a fiasco indeed. She'd never fully closed out the lease or sold the leftover decor. Henry had covered the debts. I guess it's all worthless. Are you expecting me to sign over something?" Douglas hesitated. "Well," Henry asked if there's anything salvageable. "He's filing final closure. If you do have a partial claim, it might be worth something minimal. He's offering to let you keep it if you want to convert it into a new venture. Or sign it away." Lucy blinked. "He's offering me a worthless shell?" "Essentially, yes," said Douglas. "But you never know. If you wanted to do a small business again, this might help. I'm just the messenger." She bit her lip. Could this be a hint or a trap? "I'll think about it." She ended the call, puzzling over whether Henry was mocking her or extending an olive branch. She doubted it was genuine generosity. Perhaps he just wanted to finalize old liabilities. Still, the idea of a business, no matter how small, teased her mind. Could she rebuild from that? Or was it a dead end? Spurred by a flicker of hope, Lucy visited the old boutique location downtown. The lease was terminated years ago, but some dusty decor, shelves, and racks remained in storage. The premises looked battered, though. She walked among the vacant space, half lost in memories. She recalled initially opening it with excitement, only to give up when it got tough, preferring Henry's easy money. That choice haunted her. She spoke with the landlord. He recalled her fiasco, but said if she was serious about re-renting, he might give a discount. Lucy realized she couldn't even afford the discount deposit. But maybe she could apply for a small business loan? Then she remembered her credit was shot, and Henry wouldn't co-sign. She left, feeling deflated. Another door closed unless she found a different angle. On her way home, Lucy cut through an alley, passing a row of small artisanal shops that thrived on minimal budgets. She had a moment of inspiration. Maybe she could do a pop-up store, selling curated items or offering event planning services. If she curated vintage clothing or reworked second-hand luxury pieces, she might feed that new wave of upcycling fashion. But to do so, she needed capital or a partner. She cursed her predicament. Exiting the alley, Lucy nearly collided with an older woman carrying groceries. They recognized each other at once. Ms. Rayfield, the mother of one of Lucy's ex-friends, who had lent her money for a philanthropic event. Lucy had never repaid it, letting Henry cover or ignore it. Ms. Rayfield's face twisted with disdain. Lucy Whitmore. Well, well, how the mighty have fallen. Lucy tried to keep calm. I'm not a Whitmore anymore, apparently. I apologized for that loan fiasco. Henry was supposed to. Ms. Rayfield cut her off. Your husband can't always fix your deceit. My daughter told me how you manipulated her into believing you had the resources, then stuck us with the costs. No wonder Henry kicked you out. Anger flared. Lucy had known Ms. Rayfield to be blunt. It's more complicated than that. Henry is punishing me for trivial reasons. Ms. Rayfield sneered. Trivial? You publicly shamed him, danced with another man, taught your daughter to mooch from half the city's kids. Now you blame him for your downfall? Ridiculous. She sidestepped Lucy. Don't come near me or my family again, Lucy. We want no part in your manipulations. She walked away, leaving Lucy trembling in the alley, shame burning. This was the new normal, old acquaintances spurning her. She realized how thoroughly Henry's quiet influence turned or validated people's negative opinions. In a single stroke, he'd undone her entire social standing, leaving Lucy hated or ridiculed. That evening, Lucy collapsed into the apartment, exhausted. She found Stella absent, likely at her part-time job. Lucy scrolled through messages, seeing one from Henry. He'd texted, Heard from Douglas you visited the boutique site. If you want the salvage rights, sign the form he'll send. We can redirect the minimal leftover property to you, free of cost. Lucy sat on the worn couch, tears surfacing. Despite her anger at Henry, there was a pang of gratitude. Maybe, just maybe, he was giving her a tiny lifeline. She typed back, I appreciate the offer. Let me think. He responded within minutes. No more stunts, Lucy. I see you trying. Keep it honest. She set the phone aside, half laughing at the irony. Henry was paternalistically guiding her to a small potential business chance. But what was it, if not a crumb from the man who once financed her lavish existence? She'd have to swallow pride. Maybe that was the final lesson in humility. She texted Stella about it. Stella's short reply said, Better than nothing, but you know Dad. He'll track every step. Don't cross him again. Lucy sighed. Stella was right. She resolved to accept Henry's offer, gather the leftover boutique assets, and see if she could resurrect a micro-business. Maybe a pop-up shop or an online platform. If she succeeded, she might gain some independence. If she failed, she remained stuck in Henry's monthly pittance forever. Stella returned from her shift at the clothing store near midnight, face drawn. Lucy had dozed on the couch. Any luck with Dad's partial tuition? Was Stella's greeting. Lucy rubbed her eyes. He's open to paying half if you show consistent earnings and reapply for next semester with better references. You'll need to speak to him eventually. Stella slumped onto a chair. I resent him so much, but I do want my degree. I guess I have no choice. Her voice cracked. It's so humiliating at work. My manager's a year older than me, barks orders. I can't even afford decent clothes. Customers treat me like some nobody. Lucy nodded sympathetically. I know, sweetie. I had a rough day, too. Everyone I used to know scorns me. Even random acquaintances are shutting doors. We brought this on ourselves. Stella's eyes glistened. Dad used to be so gentle. Why is he so ruthless now? Lucy fought tears. Because we underestimated him, belittled him, and forced him to act. And we never showed him real love. We used him. I see that now. The confession hung in the stale air. Stella exhaled, tears slipping. I wish we could rewind, but it's too late. Lucy softly said, maybe not. If we truly show contrition, maybe Henry will eventually soften. But we have to be sincere. No more secret deals. He can smell deception a mile away. Agreed? Stella swallowed. Agreed, Mom. They shared a rare moment of genuine closeness, mother and daughter united in regret, forging a vow to survive honestly. The road ahead was uncertain, but they had no illusions left. Henry had taught them the cost of betrayal. Chapter 9. Lucy stared at the bare walls of her cramped apartment's living room, mentally reviewing the day's disappointments. She'd spent the afternoon at 3 different offices, dropping off a fledgling resume that barely showcased her chaotic experience running charity galas. None had given her more than a polite smile. Even the leftover hopes for reopening her old boutique site seemed distant. She had almost no capital, no credit, and only minimal items from her past business. Yet, ironically, Lucy felt a pinprick of determination she had rarely experienced before. She might have lost her mansion, her lavish car, her staff, and her sockled friends, but she still had a spark of will. If only for Stella's sake, Lucy needed to keep going. Stella emerged from the tiny bedroom they shared, dropping onto the sagging couch with a weary sigh. I'm so tired, she said. This part-time job is draining, but I hardly make enough to pay for groceries, and Dad expects me to save for tuition? It's impossible. Lucy glanced at the clock. 7:15 p.m. Another humble dinner beckoned, microwavable and cheap. She missed the elaborate feasts once conjured by personal chefs. She and Stella used to have carefree nights out, courtesy of Henry's credit cards. But that life was gone, replaced by all-too-real budgeting. Stella fiddled with her phone. Mom, have you talked to Dad about, maybe letting me come home for weekends? I can't stand it here, and if I re-enroll next semester, traveling from this side of town is... Lucy exhaled. Stella, there's no going back to that mansion. Dad was clear. We broke his rules, so we can't live under his roof. We're basically exiled. Stella frowned. What if we actually apologize, like really apologize? Let me text him. Maybe he'll let me stay in my old room. I'll do chores or something. Lucy's gut churned with a swirl of regret and longing for the easy comfort of Henry's domain. We can try. But remember, we tried half-hearted apologies before and he saw through them. If we do it again, we better be sincere. They exchanged a look, a mutual acknowledgement that sincerity was new territory for them. Sighing, Lucy stood to prepare dinner. I'm making ramen. You want an egg with it? Stella shrugged. Sure, thanks. She sank into the sofa, scrolling on her phone. Mom, I just saw on social media. That big charity event we used to host yearly at the mansion? Dad's apparently hosting it again next month, but with new partners. He replaced us with some new planning committee. Ugh. Lucy felt a sting in her chest. That charity event had once been her shining moment. She'd loved orchestrating the glitz, the applause. Now, Henry was continuing it without her. Another reminder she was disposable. Well, that's that, Lucy said quietly. Stella gripped her phone. Wait, someone posted pictures of Dad at a dinner with some philanthropic big shots, including a younger woman named Kendra. She's pretty. Lucy paused, letting the realization settle. Henry might be moving on. Did she feel jealous? Anger? She'd forfeited any moral claim to him after humiliating him with Adam. She turned to check on the ramen. "It's done," she said, tamping down the swirl of emotions. That sense of being replaced hurt, but Lucy forced herself to remain outwardly calm. Meanwhile, Henry worked late in his new private condo, a streamlined, elegant space he'd acquired after vacating the mansion to Lucy and Stella. Except they never wanted it. No, he left the mansion effectively empty, waiting for a potential sale or a different occupant. Lucy and Stella had left, so Henry sometimes visited the property for upkeep or business gatherings, but he mostly lived in this condo he'd prepared. He liked its calm anonymity. He studied an update from his mother, Evelyn, who had texted him about Lucy's predicament. "Poor Lucy and Stella are living in a cramped place. Are you sure you want to be this harsh?" Henry sighed. He respected Evelyn's empathy, but remained resolute. Lucy had had years to treat him fairly. Now she faced the consequences. Still, he wasn't heartless. He made sure Lucy's monthly $1,500 arrived without fail, and that Stella had a potential path back to partial tuition coverage if she truly demonstrated good faith. Yet, he saw no sign of that happening. Stella's job was minimal, her attitude still resentful, Lucy's track record so marred by deceit. Scrolling his phone, Henry saw an email from Douglas about Lucy's possible interest in leftover boutique items. Henry had told Douglas, "Let Lucy have them if she wants," figuring it might help her stand on her own. If Lucy truly built something from it, maybe Henry could see she was changing. If she squandered the chance, that was on her. He typed a simple reply. "Encourage her. If she's serious, I'm open to a short trial lease arrangement with that old landlord, or some bridging capital if she meets conditions." He pressed send, feeling a pang. He was still philanthropic enough to give Lucy a lifeline, yet he wouldn't be her doormat again. A day later, Henry was at Whitmore Shield's top-floor office when he received a text from Lucy. "Henry, I want to meet. No arguments, just talk. I have something to propose." He considered ignoring it, but curiosity stirred. Maybe Lucy had reached a new level of humility. He typed back, "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office. Bring Stella too if it involves her." Lucy's acceptance text arrived swiftly, short and formal. "We'll be there." Henry pocketed his phone, heart oddly heavy. Why did part of him hope she'd found genuine remorse? Or was she planning another scheme? He mentally prepared for either. Chapter 10. The next morning, Lucy and Stella trudged into Whitmore Shield's impressive lobby together. Lucy had borrowed one of her more modest business suits from the days she used to attend society luncheons, thankfully, not sold yet. Stella, wearing a second-hand blouse from the store where she worked, looked anxious. They approached the receptionist, who recognized Lucy, but gave a polite, neutral smile. "Mr. Whitmore is expecting you," she said, guiding them upstairs. Henry met them in a glass-walled conference room. He stood, gesturing for them to sit. Lucy noticed he wore an impeccable navy suit, exuding confidence, further emphasizing the gulf between them. Stella eyed her father with a mixture of apprehension and resentment. Once they were seated, Henry began. "You asked to talk. Go ahead." Lucy inhaled. "We're here to humbly ask you to consider partial forgiveness. Stella's situation is dire. She wants to re-enroll next semester, but she can't unless we pay a significant portion of her bursar bills soon. She's working, but it's not nearly enough." Stella nodded, voice quivering. "Dad, I know I messed up. I'm trying to save. I can show you my pay stubs. It's humiliating, but I'm doing it. Please help me stay in college." Henry regarded Stella solemnly. "How much do you have saved?" She swallowed. About $100 so far. I keep half my paycheck for basic living costs, the rest I put aside. That's all I can manage. He tapped a pen on the table, mind calculating. Your next tuition installment is how much? Stella's eyes flickered. $4,000 for the next semester's partial payment, plus I owe back fees of around $2,000 from dropping out. So total $6,000. My old roommate took my dorm slot, so I might have to find off-campus housing if I return, which is more money. Henry nodded. So you're short thousands. Have you applied for any scholarships or financial aid as I advised? Stella pressed her lips. I tried. They said it's late in the cycle. Maybe next year. Also, my GPA is borderline for scholarships, so not many options. I'm trying, Dad, I promise. Lucy chimed in. Henry, she's willing to meet any condition. We both are. We'll do whatever you ask as long as it helps Stella get back on track. You said you'd consider paying half if she showed effort. She's working, that's an effort, right? Henry let out a measured breath. Yes, that's a start. But I also recall your attempt to steal and sell items behind my back. That sets you back in my trust. Stella's cheeks flushed with shame. That was Mom's idea, both our ideas. I'm sorry, we were desperate. We won't do it again. Lucy cast Stella a quick glare, not wanting full blame, but remained silent. Henry eyed them both. So, you want me to pay about $4,000, $5,000 to cover the difference. In return, you vow not to revert to old patterns. Lucy, what do you offer to assure me you'll remain honest? Lucy swallowed, leaning forward. I'll sign anything you want. Or do you want me to do housekeeping for you personally? Or volunteer at your charity events? I'll do it. Her voice quavered. We have no illusions of returning to your house. We just want a stable path for Stella's education. Henry's expression was unmoved. Volunteering or housekeeping for me? That's unnecessary. I want to see that you're building your own independence. Are you pursuing the leftover boutique assets? Lucy nodded eagerly. Yes. I plan to reopen a small pop-up or an online store with them. I still need some capital, or at least the salvage rights and maybe a small bridging fund. But I'll show you monthly statements, let you see I'm using it properly. If that's permissible? He tapped his pen. That might be workable. I'll consider fronting you a modest business microloan of $3,000 to be repaid with a fair interest rate if your pop-up generates revenue. In exchange, you remain fully transparent. This is separate from any divorce or marriage arrangement, a purely business transaction. Lucy's hope soared. Yes, absolutely. I'll pay you back. He turned to Stella. As for you, I might cover half your tuition and fees if you sign a written pledge to maintain a minimum 3. 0 GPA, remain employed part-time, and show me monthly grade and financial updates. If you slip, I'll revoke support. Understood? Stella's eyes shone with relief. I agree. I'll do it. She paused. But can I also get a bit of money for a dorm or an off-campus place near campus? This commute from our new apartment is insane. Henry considered. Dorm is best. If you can find a new slot, I'll pay half of that cost too. But no partying, no failing grades. Any sign of old habits, you're cut off again. Stella exhaled a trembling breath, nodding. I accept. Lucy, seeing a glimmer of redemption, couldn't hold back a tear. Henry, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We'll repay your faith. We'll abide by every condition. Henry's gaze softened a fraction. Good. Then let's get the paperwork in motion. He pressed a button, calling in an assistant, with prepared documents he'd obviously planned for the possibility of them asking for help. Lucy's heart fluttered at the realization that Henry, for all his tough stance, had left the door cracked open for them to do right. Half an hour later, Lucy and Stella left Whitmore Shield with a small stack of new agreements. Lucy clutched a contract promising her a microloan for the boutique relaunch. Stella held a short-term arrangement for partial tuition coverage. Both felt an odd mix of relief and bitterness. They had to grovel to Henry, sign documents with restrictive clauses, but it beat living in total desperation. As they stepped onto the bustling sidewalk, Lucy forced a smile at Stella. "We did it. We have a chance." Stella nodded, though her eyes remained wary. "We just can't screw up again. Dad's not messing around." They parted ways, Stella heading to her job, Lucy returning to the apartment to plan. That night, Lucy texted Brooklyn the news. Brooklyn responded skeptically, "He's reeling you in. Just be careful." But Lucy brushed aside the negativity. She was determined to make the most of this fragile second chance. Over the next 2 weeks, Lucy threw herself into resurrecting her old boutique concept, but in a far humbler form. She visited the shuttered location, speaking with the landlord about re-renting a smaller side unit. He agreed to a month-to-month lease at a discount. Lucy used Henry's microloan for basic renovations, cleaning, some paint, a sign. She'd focus on curated vintage fashion, possibly an online presence. She also used leftover decor from her original fiasco, grateful Henry had allowed her to keep it. It was exhausting, physically and mentally. Lucy no longer had staff or catered lunches. She lugged paint cans, scrubbed floors, hammered shelves into place. She posted sneak peek pictures on social media, garnering mild interest. Each day, she collapsed into bed at the apartment, body aching, but with a strange sense of fulfillment she hadn't felt in years. One evening, as she dozed, her phone buzzed a message from Henry. "Checked your daily expense logs. Everything seems legitimate. Keep it up." Lucy realized he was monitoring every cent from the microloan. She bristled at the intrusion, but recognized it was part of the deal. She typed back a curt, "Thank you. I will." Simultaneously, Stella arranged re-enrollment at her university for next semester, subject to paying partial fees plus improved academic performance. Henry released a chunk of money for the existing debt, letting Stella restore her student status. She found a half-available dorm slot, albeit in a less desirable building. The bursar demanded Stella pay a portion from her own pocket to prove seriousness. Thanks to her job savings and Henry's partial deposit, it worked out. Stella moved a few items into the dorm, albeit a small, unglamorous room shared with a serious-minded roommate who had no patience for partying. Stella tried to adapt. She studied diligently, joined a campus reading club to boost her academic credentials, and refrained from late-night partying. Her new roommate, a STEM major named Daphne, insisted on quiet hours and daily study sessions. Initially, Stella hated it, but gradually she realized this discipline improved her grades and impressed her father's weekly check-ins. In one fleeting moment of self-awareness, Stella realized this was how Henry had always tried to guide her through consistent effort and accountability. A faint pang of regret lingered. She texted Lucy, "I see why Dad was so big on responsibility. Hard, but it's good." Lucy, reading that, felt a surge of cautious hope that maybe they were truly changing. Chapter 11. Months slipped by. Each day, Lucy and Stella continuing their new routines, each forging a path under Henry's scrutinizing presence. The initial hatred gave way to a grudging acceptance that life required honest work. Lucy's micro-boutique, Second Bloom, opened with modest fanfare. She used social media to lure customers seeking vintage finds or reworked designer pieces. The store's profits were meager but enough to cover her overhead and repay the microloan in small increments. Stella juggled classes and her part-time job. She found a surprising sense of satisfaction after acing a midterm, gleaning a taste of genuine self-worth not rooted in wealth. She updated Henry monthly with transcripts or pay stubs, each time receiving a small good job text that, though terse, felt like paternal acknowledgement. She tried to hide how much it mattered to her, but inside, her resentment gradually thawed. Yet Lucy's daily existence remained tough. Her finances were precarious. One slow sales week could jeopardize rent. Henry's deposit arrived monthly, still set at $2,500, but Lucy realized it barely covered her personal living costs, plus some overhead for the store. She longed for the mansion's easy comfort, but she also recognized she was forging a new sense of autonomy, though under Henry's watchful eye. One crisp afternoon, Lucy was rearranging displays in her boutique when the door's little bell chimed. She turned, expecting a browsing customer. Instead, she saw Henry Whitmore stepping inside, wearing a sleek coat, a fleeting expression of curiosity on his face. Lucy's heart lurched. She forced a calm smile. "Henry, didn't expect you here." He surveyed the modest setup. Racks of second-hand designer clothes, tasteful decor, Lucy managed to salvage. A small sales counter with a battered old register. "I wanted to see how you're using my loan," he said without malice, "and to see if you're making progress." She exhaled, adopting a professional tone. "I'm grateful for your help. Sales are slow but picking up. The local market likes unique items, and I'm building an online presence. If you'd like to see some numbers, I have them." She gestured at a binder on the counter. Henry nodded, flipping the thought-provoking, the binder. Lucy observed him carefully. The man who had once been her docile husband was reading the figures with detached precision, like an investor evaluating a startup. After a moment, he set it down. "These are decent. You've managed to repay a small portion of the principal so far." "That's promising." Lucy's stomach fluttered with a strange mix of relief and leftover resentment. "I'm trying. This is all new for me, doing it alone." He regarded her, something like reluctant respect in his eyes. "It's not easy, I know, but that's how one learns. Hard lessons are often the best teachers." She bit her lip, then mustered courage. "Henry, if I continue at this pace, I might fully repay the loan in a year. Could we then renegotiate? Maybe you'd consider an actual partnership. Let me expand?" He shrugged. "I'm open to discussing expansions if your track record holds. 1 year is a long time, Lucy. Let's see if you remain stable." He glanced around. "Nice store, by the way. Simplistic but tastefully arranged." A faint wave of warmth spread through Lucy at the compliment. "Thank you. I appreciate it." He stepped back toward the door. "Keep at it." Then paused, adding quietly, "If you truly build something honest here, I'll be the first to commend you." Then he left, the bell jingling overhead. Lucy stood motionless, grappling with an odd sense of validation. She found her breath coming fast, a swirl of contradictory emotions. Gratitude, embarrassment, longing for the old closeness. But that old closeness felt irretrievably lost. A week later, Henry visited Stella's campus library unannounced. He had a board meeting nearby and decided to drop in, curious to see Stella's progress. Stella was restocking shelves, wearing a plain uniform vest with the library's logo. She nearly dropped a pile of books upon seeing him approach. She stammered, "Dad, hi, what are you doing here?" He offered a small nod. "I had a meeting across campus. Thought I'd see how you're handling the job. It's part of my arrangement with you, after all." Stella flushed. It's fine. I'm shelving books, scanning returns, assisting students. Boring, but I guess it pays." Henry noticed the subdued cast of her eyes. "And your classes?" She pulled out her phone to show him digital grade updates. "I have 2 A's, 2 B's right now. I might end with a 3. 3 GPA, actually. A flicker of pride crossed Henry's face. That's good. Keep it up. If you finish the semester strong, I'll pay for next semester's tuition as promised. Stella breathed relief. Thanks, Dad. Really? She lowered her gaze. I know we messed up. I'm trying to fix that. He gave a small nod, almost paternal. Actions speak louder than words, Stella. But I see progress. Then he left, giving her a polite farewell. She watched him go, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in her chest, the sense of earning her father's approval. For the first time, she felt proud not because of easy money, but because she was actually working for something. Chapter 12. As months continued, Lucy's store found a modest but loyal following. Stella's academic performance held steady, and Henry maintained his watchful but less combative stance. Tension persisted, they remained parted physically, with Lucy and Stella in their humble apartment, Henry in his condo or traveling. Yet the mood shifted from outright war to cautious coexistence. One day, Lucy discovered a new visitor in her shop, Evelyn, Henry's mother. Lucy's heart pounded at the sight of her former mother-in-law stepping in, scanning the racks. Evelyn nodded curtly. Lucy swallowed. Good afternoon, Evelyn. Can I help you find something? Evelyn's gaze roamed the store. I wanted to see how you're faring, dear. Henry told me you reopened your boutique on a smaller scale. He said you're actually doing honest work now. Her tone held no malice, just blunt candor. Lucy mustered politeness. Yes, I am. It's humbling but fulfilling in a way. This time I'm not relying on illusions of wealth. She braced for Evelyn's scorn. Evelyn nodded. I'm old enough to appreciate humility. I never liked how you used Henry's resources so carelessly. But maybe you've changed. I see you have. She picked up a vintage scarf. It's lovely. Where did you find it? Relief fluttered in Lucy's chest. She explained the sourcing from a local estate sale, gently persuading Evelyn to buy it if she liked. Evelyn eventually purchased it, paying in cash. Then, in a surprising turn, she softly said, Lucy, I never wanted you to be homeless. Henry told me it was the best method to teach you a lesson. I believe he was correct, though it was harsh. Lucy's eyes misted. I see that now. I was cruel to him, made him feel worthless. He had to stand up for himself. Evelyn nodded, quietly placing the scarf in her bag. He's a good man, Lucy. If you truly show him changed behavior, maybe there's a path to partial reconciliation or at least respectful friendship. He might keep you at arm's length for a while, though. Lucy smiled ruefully. I won't blame him. I deserve it. I only hope to regain some measure of trust someday. Evelyn gave a final nod, leaving the store with a polite farewell. Lucy sank into her stool behind the counter, tears falling at the first genuine acceptance she'd felt from Henry's side in ages. In mid-spring, Lucy received an unexpected envelope in the mail, an invitation from Whitmore Shield for its annual corporate gala. She blinked at the embossed card, reading the message. Mr. Henry Whitmore cordially invites Ms. Lucy. Lucy's heart pounded. Was this a standard courtesy or a real gesture of acknowledging her? She showed the invitation to Stella. Stella shrugged. We both know Dad's hosting that big event. Maybe he's inviting you so you can see how real professionals do it now. Or maybe he's extending an olive branch. Hard to tell. Lucy set the card aside. She was torn. Attend and risk humiliation or skip it and appear ungrateful. Eventually, Lucy decided to go. This was a chance to show Henry she had changed, plus maybe network for her new boutique. She only owned a single presentable cocktail dress that wasn't sold or reclaimed. She prayed it was enough. She also considered encouraging Stella to come, but the invitation was addressed only to Lucy. Stella parted no illusions that Henry might want her there. so Lucy would go alone. The night of the gala arrived. Lucy, trembling, made her way to the downtown luxury hotel where Whitmore Shields' event took place. She felt conspicuous stepping from a rideshare instead of a limousine. She forced a confident posture and entered the ballroom, seeing Henry's corporate world in full regalia. Suits, gowns, swirling champagne. Guests recognized Lucy with curious stares. Some offered polite greetings. Others whispered behind fans about how she lost everything. Lucy swallowed the discomfort moving through the crowd. She spotted Henry near the stage, speaking with board members. When he noticed her, he paused, giving a small nod. Instead of ignoring her, he subtly waved her closer. She approached, heart pounding. He introduced her calmly. "This is Lucy, a family connection. She's running a new vintage boutique." She recognized some top managers who nodded politely. Lucy realized Henry was giving her an opening to mention her store. She seized it. "Hello? Yes, I manage a curated vintage boutique downtown. If your spouses or friends appreciate unique pieces, do visit. I can also do personal consultations." The managers and board members smiled, somewhat intrigued or just politely. One or two expressed interest. Henry didn't contradict or embarrass her, which Lucy appreciated deeply. When the group dispersed, Lucy turned to Henry. "Thank you for letting me speak. I was terrified you'd freeze me out." He shrugged, not unkindly. "It's a professional event. I see no reason to deny you a chance. As long as you remain respectful and genuine, Lucy." She exhaled. "I will. Thank you." He motioned for them to step aside. "We can speak privately over there." They moved to a quieter corner behind a pillar. She braced for a confrontation, but Henry's tone was measured, almost cordial. "You're looking well. The store must be suiting you." She gave a shaky smile. "It's humbling. Yes, but I feel oddly proud to stand on my own, even if it's small. Thank you for the microloan. I mean it." His gaze flicked with a trace of sympathy. "I'm glad you're trying. Let's keep it up. Stella, too. She told me she's set for next semester with partial tuition. She's maintaining her GPA so far." Lucy brightened. "Yes, she's working diligently. I think she might actually graduate if she keeps this up. And I know she regrets how she treated you." Henry's face flickered with conflicting emotions. "Regret is a first step, Lucy. True change is next. We'll see." He paused, then quietly added, "But I'm relieved to see some positive direction." They lingered in silence, a thick sense of history swirling between them, 20-plus years of marriage, betrayal, heartbreak, and now a fragile respect. Lucy parted her lips to say something more personal, but someone approached Henry, requesting his presence. He excused himself, giving Lucy one last searching look. Then he left. Lucy remained, her chest tight with longing for the old closeness. But perhaps that closeness was irreparably damaged. This polite civility might be all that remained. Weeks after the gala, Lucy was in her boutique late one afternoon, going through inventory. A hush fell over the place as the last customer left. She locked up, then began counting the day's modest earnings. The phone buzzed. It was the old landlord from her boutique fiasco. "Lucy, I just heard that a potential buyer wants to purchase the entire building, including your leased space. If it goes through, you might have to vacate or pay a higher rent. Are you prepared for that?" Panic fluttered in Lucy's chest. "No, I can't afford a rent hike. I just got started." The landlord apologized, but said it was out of his hands. He'd keep her posted. Lucy sank onto a stool, a wave of despair. Her baby steps forward, threatened by external forces. She rummaged in her mind for solutions. Maybe Henry would offer more capital? Or was that too humiliating to ask again? Her phone beeped a second time, Stella texting, "Mom, Dad told me he wants me to sign a new academic pledge for next semester. He's raising the GPA requirement to 3. 2. Seriously?" Lucy bit her lip. Henry was increasing demands, perhaps to push them further toward genuine diligence, or maybe still testing their sincerity. She typed a quick reply. "We might have no choice, Stella. Just do your best. We'll talk more at home." That evening, Lucy returned to the apartment to find Stella pacing, frantic tears in her eyes. "Mom, something happened at the store," she said, voice trembling. "My coworker found out I used to be super rich, bragged about it, and now the manager wrote me up for lying on my application. They suspect I might be dishonest about needing hours. I could get fired." Lucy's stomach dropped. If Stella lost her job, Henry might cut off her tuition funds. She tried to calm Stella. "It's just a misunderstanding. Go talk to the manager tomorrow. Politely explain your situation. Show them you're a serious worker. That's all you can do. Don't panic." Stella shook her head, eyes shining with tears. "I regret everything. If Dad sees me losing the job, I can't pay for any part of next semester, and then I'm done." Lucy hugged her daughter, whispering words of reassurance. Inside, Lucy's heart hammered. She realized how precarious their entire existence remained. Days later, Lucy received an urgent text from Henry. "We need to talk about Stella's job. Come to my condo tomorrow, 3 p.m. Lucy's heart raced. Perhaps he'd discovered Stella's trouble at work. She texted back a simple, "Okay," bracing for the worst. Arriving at Henry's condo the next day, Lucy wore her best neutral outfit, stepping inside the elegant living space. She glimpsed a city skyline through panoramic windows. Henry offered her a seat on a minimalist sofa. This condo was drastically different from their old mansion modern, efficient like Henry's new self. He got straight to the point. "Stella might lose her job, which complicates her tuition arrangement. She told me her manager is questioning her honesty. Lucy, do you know anything about it?" Lucy clasped her hands. "Yes, she told me. They found out she used to be wealthy, ironically doubting her reasons for working. She's terrified of being fired." Lucy hesitated, then added, "She truly wants to continue her studies. She's changed, Henry." He nodded. "I do see improvement in her grades. But losing this job means losing the partial income she was supposed to contribute, which was part of my condition. If she can't show financial responsibility, I'm not sure I can keep paying a large chunk of her tuition. I refuse to revert to the old days of unconditional handouts." Lucy's voice trembled. "I understand. Henry, can't you see how far Stella has come? She's not scamming or partying. She's truly trying. She just got unlucky with suspicious co-workers." She paused, summoning courage. "Is there a possibility you could speak to her manager, maybe clarify that she is indeed in need, that you withdrew your support so this job is vital to her? A father's reference might help her keep the job." Henry considered. "You want me to vouch for her?" Lucy nodded fervently. "She's made mistakes, but if her job is saved, she'll continue on the responsible path. If she's fired, she might spiral. We can't let that happen." He exhaled, tension in his posture. "I never wanted to sabotage her future. Fine. I'll talk to them or send a letter verifying she's no longer rich. But Lucy, this is a major concession. If Stella betrays my trust, again, the consequences are final. Understood?" Lucy felt tears. "Yes, Henry, thank you. We appreciate it." He softened a fraction. "All right. I'll handle it discreetly. Also about your store, my sources say the landlord might be selling. You need a fallback plan?" She swallowed. "Yes. I might have to relocate or close. It's devastating. But I'll keep trying, even if I have to find a different spot. as long as I can keep paying your loan back." Henry nodded. "You do that? Meanwhile, let me know if you need a small extension or a new lease arrangement. If you remain transparent, I can help. But the moment I see manipulation—" Lucy cut in softly. "I won't, Henry. I've learned." She gazed at him, voice quivering with gratitude and sorrow. "I truly regret all the ways I hurt you. I see now how we took advantage of your kindness. I won't repeat those mistakes." He regarded her quietly, searching her face. At length, he said, "All right. Let's move forward then, step by step." The tension in the air eased, replaced by a tenuous sense of reconciliation. Not romantic love that was likely gone, but a mutual acceptance that they both wanted Stella to succeed, and perhaps they could coexist in mutual respect. In the weeks that followed, Henry wrote a formal letter to Stella's manager, verifying Stella's financial situation, clarifying she was indeed on her own. The manager, impressed, withdrew the threat of firing, letting Stella keep her job. Stella, relieved, doubled her efforts, grateful to Henry in a way she never thought possible. Her GPA soared, and she built some new friendships on campus with peers who appreciated her genuine self rather than old illusions of money. Lucy's store faced the building sale. She scrambled, but with Henry's quiet backing, arranged to move her boutique into a smaller adjacent location at a fair rent, continuing her dream. She found unexpected satisfaction in the daily grind, forging a modest but real business identity. Meanwhile, she complied diligently with the monthly financial updates Henry demanded, never again risking a stealthy scheme. It wasn't a fairy tale resolution. Lucy and Stella remained in their modest apartment, learning to budget. Henry lived in his condo, occasionally traveling. They no longer functioned as a nuclear family, but they established a careful stability. Lucy discovered she didn't fully crave returning to the old marriage too many scars. Instead, she respected Henry from a distance, grateful for his partial forgiveness. Stella discovered genuine pride in self-sufficiency, her father's conditions, ironically giving her a sense of direction. One quiet afternoon, Lucy came across an old photograph of them all at a carnival years ago. Henry holding Stella's hand, Lucy smiling widely, presumably content. Lucy felt tears prick her eyes, acknowledging how they'd lost that closeness. But perhaps they'd gained something new, an honest recognition of their failings and a chance to rebuild themselves. No illusions, just truth. That was the final transformation Henry had forced on them. They once ridiculed him for being too rigid to spreadsheets and schedules. Now they realized that discipline was what had built everything they'd enjoyed. Freed from their manipulations, Henry had soared in his business while Lucy and Stella had faced a stark journey to redeem themselves. In the end, it wasn't just Henry's revenge, it was a painful lesson that ended up benefiting them, if they chose to see it as such. Lucy closed the photo album. She heard Stella's key in the door. The day's fights and tears had given way to cautious hope. They would never fully restore the old illusions of wealth or unconditional lavishness, but maybe that was for the best. They were forging a new path, learning that genuine pride came from within, not from leeching off Henry's generosity. Lucy rose to greet Stella, quietly determined that whatever lay ahead, she'd face it with honesty. No more cunning illusions. That was Henry's final gift to them, the forced humility that birthed an authentic second chance.